What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about my hardtop repair on my NA Miata. I never made a full video on this, but I did document the entire process on my Instagram stories. So today I just kind of wanted to go through that and kind of give you my overview of the entire process step by step in a little bit more detail than I did in the Instagram story initially. As some of you guys might know, I work at a body shop, so I do get questions from time to time on how to repair certain types of things, fiberglass, anything like that. So I kind of wanted to go through the process specifically on this Miata hardtop and show you guys how I did this repair, and maybe you might be able to do a similar repair for yourself. But with that little bit of introduction out of the way, let's just go ahead and hop into this story and go through the process of the repair and refinish on this OEM Miata hardtop. So first up here, you can see the top is chipped up along the bottom edge. This is very common as the top is made out of fiberglass or this SMC compound, which is similar to fiberglass, and that bottom edge can get damaged easily when removing or transporting the top around. So the first thing you're going to see me do here is use this Evercoat kitty hair on this one spot on the side of the top. This is a long strand fiberglass reinforced body filler, and one of the first things I did along that whole bottom edge that was going to be repaired was just go ahead and sand that whole area out with either 80 or 180 grit sandpaper to prep it for the repair materials like this Evercoat. You're going to wipe this on just like you would with any type of body filler or Bondo. One of the things I like to do on these bottom edges when there's chunks missing like that is actually take a piece of tape on the back side, and then as you're wiping, it will give it a little bit of structure to stick to fill in those missing gaps. So the next thing I did after testing that one spot was go ahead and completely disassemble the top. This will need to be done for painting purposes, so it's best to just go ahead and get that out of the way first. There'll be some rubber weather strippings in there where the side windows usually meet up to. Those will just pull out of their tracks, and then the tracks are held in by some Phillips head screws, which are easily removed. At this time, you're also going to want to go ahead and remove your side latches and top latches. Here you can see I got some fiberglass mat and resin to try and repair some of these larger chunks that were missing. This stuff is a bit more tricky to work with than the fiberglass reinforced body filler, but it does provide a very strong repair. So same thing here, we're going to make sure to prep the outside with some 80 or 180 grit sandpaper as well as the inside. And now this is where the repair got a little bit more involved for me, just because of the fact that now I'm getting on that inside. I'm also going to need to refinish that, but it does make for an overall much better repair. Now up next, before doing that, I went ahead and removed the glass, since I'm going to need to do that for paint anyways. And I did not want to get any of that fiberglass resin running down and getting underneath or onto the glass itself. This is the part I understand might not be viable for everyone, but if you can, I highly recommend it. It does make it a better repair and refinish. The glass is held in by some 8mm nuts as well as urethane around the whole edge of the surface. So with that glass out, now I was able to lay down the fiberglass resin and mat over those larger areas that needed repaired. And after leaving that to sit and set up overnight, the next day when I came in, I found that it was hardened up and it was a very strong repair. You'll want to go back and block sand that with 80 or 180 and then DA sand it to get it nice and flush with the rest of the top. Here you can see I've got all the chips and little nicks repaired. All those blue spots you see are the Evercoat kitty hair. Then in this next story, you'll see I've covered all of that, pretty much the entire bottom edge, with this 3M platinum finishing glaze. You definitely need to go over the fiberglass filler with a glaze. The fiberglass or fiberglass filler usually leaves a rough finish. Usually there's a lot of pinholes or little microscopic holes in it. You'll definitely want to cover that up with like a finishing glaze that's going to fill all those in and really just smooth out and finish off the repair nicely. Once I got to this stage, I blocked all of that down with 180 grit and 320 grit sandpaper until it was perfectly smooth and flush, and I made sure I had a nice even bottom edge to the hardtop. That was one of the main things I was focused on after having those chips missing in it. I wanted to make sure I had a nice straight clean edge. So once you reach this stage, you are ready for primer. You're going to want to prime all these repair areas. Body filler is porous, it absorbs moisture, and you will not be able to paint over it properly without priming it first. For this job in particular, I used another Evercoat product called Slick Sand. It is a polyester primer that is really good for these types of repairs, and especially for fiberglass. So I then went back and block sanded that primer with 320 grit, 400, and finally finishing out with 600 grit on the primer and the whole entire rest of the top. When you're finishing out sanding your primer, you definitely want to make sure you remove any and all texture, as this will be the final surface that the paint goes over. And in this next one, this is where I went a little bit overboard. Just because it had been this long already, I wanted to go ahead and make sure this top was absolutely perfect. There had been a scratch on the inside of the top ever since I got it, so I took this opportunity to go ahead and just take care of that. It just sanded out, no filler or anything like that needed. I just then took a little bit of spray can primer and spray can trim black. This is just a flat black, pretty well matches the OEM finish, and respray the entire interior of the top. So then finally, after all that was done, it is time to go ahead and mask off the interior and get ready to paint the exterior of the top. For this project, I used PPG DBC base coat. So after one coat of sealer, I did 3 coats of red base coat, making sure everything was completely covered. And in this next one, you will see the top after 2 coats of clear, looking absolutely stunning. And then here to completely finish off the restoration, I got some new bottom seals, glass molding, and top latches. During this project, I learned that the early 90s models, soft top and hard top, actually came with these gloss black latches, which I thought looked really nice. And as my car is a 90 itself, I wanted to make sure I had those latches. So I tracked down a pair, and I really like the way they look with the gloss black as opposed to the flat texture. Now, if you do remove the glass from your top while doing this, you want to make sure you get this part right here. This is the glass molding. You will need a new one whenever you remove the glass. A lot of times you might see Miata hardtops that are missing this joint piece that goes in the top center of the glass and covers up where the 2 parts of the molding come together. So definitely make sure you get that part if you are removing and reinstalling your glass. I also did a short video covering this process. I will link it above. This is another small but very important part you might want to replace on your hardtop, whether you're restoring it or not. If you ever notice you have a lot of rattling and noise or movement coming from your hardtop going over bumps or just over normal driving, these can help out with that, or just making sure that these are adjusted properly. So at the back of your hardtop, you'll notice these chrome covers. There's actually a very small Phillips head screw in the side of it. If you remove that, they'll swivel out to the side, revealing these plates that butt up to the Frankenstein bolts on the rear deck. You'll want to make sure with your top latches tightened that these are actually pressed up underneath and against those Frankenstein bolts. This is going to help secure the top and make sure it does not move around unnecessarily. So you'll see there's 2, I believe they're 10mm bolts there. Those can be loosened, and you can adjust that plate back and forth until it is tight. And then here is the part number for that new bottom edge guard. You might also notice a lot of Miata hardtops that are missing this part. And here is the glass with new molding installed, and then a shot of the fresh paint, new glass molding, and bottom edge guard, and then the top 100% complete and installed back on the car. So like I said, this was a huge project that took me a few months to complete, working on it in my spare time. This was something I had wanted to tackle since I got the car. I know when I first got the car, I was a little disappointed in the condition of the top. And the hardtop is one of my favorite things about the Miata. I knew before I even got one that I would want a hardtop, so I wanted to make sure that mine was in good condition. So that is how I restored my OEM hardtop on my Miata. Hopefully this video could be helpful to you. Hopefully it wasn't too boring or too in-depth or anything like that. But if you have any further questions or anything you might need help with, feel free to leave a comment down below or reach out to me on Instagram. I'd be happy to try and help you with your own repairs. But that is going to do it for me on this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this helped. Have an awesome week, and we will see you in the next one.